Welcome to Story Medicine. I'm Joe Summerfield. For over 20 years, I have been working to better understand and support people in navigating the human experience. I've come to believe that stories are encoded with the collective wisdom of all who have come before us, and that they bring us into connection with the collective unconscious, and that they contain treasure waiting to be decoded. This podcast explores traditional tales through that lens. Each episode offers a story told in full, an explanation of the medicine it may carry, and questions to help you integrate that medicine. Today's story comes from the Grimm Brothers collection, drawn from German oral tradition. It's called The Handless Maiden. It carries profound medicine about loss, agency, and what we can grow back through grief. Let's begin. Part 1. The Story. There was once a miller who worked hard but remained poor all his days. Behind his mill stood a great apple tree, and beyond that, only the dark forest. One afternoon, as the miller was cutting wood in the forest, an old man appeared from between the trees. The miller had never seen him before. "Why do you toil so hard?" asked the stranger. "I can make you wealthy beyond measure. In exchange, you need only give me what stands behind your mill." The miller thought of the old apple tree and nothing more. "It's only a tree," he said. "Yes, agreed." "In 3 years' time," said the stranger, "I shall return for what is mine." And he vanished into the darkness between the trees. The miller walked home to find gold spilling out of every cupboard, coins in every chest. His wife was amazed. But when he told her of the bargain, her face went pale. "That was no man," she said. "That was the devil himself. And our daughter, she was sweeping behind the mill beneath the apple tree. It's her he means to claim." 3 years passed. The daughter grew into a young woman of such goodness that she seemed to carry light with her. When the day came for the devil to claim her, the maiden prepared herself. She drew a circle of chalk around herself and washed her hands until they were pure. The devil arrived, but he could not touch her. Her purity burnt him like fire. Enraged, he commanded the miller, "Take all water from her, so she cannot wash." The father, terrified, obeyed. But when the devil returned, the maiden wept, and her tears ran down her arms and washed her hands clean. Still the devil could not take her. "Cut off her hands," the devil demanded, "or I shall take you instead." The father's heart broke, but his fear was greater. "Forgive me," he wept to his daughter. "I am your child," she said quietly. "Do what you must." And so the father took up his axe and cut off both of his daughter's hands. When the devil came again, the maiden's tears had washed the stumps, and still he could not claim her. Defeated, he vanished forever. The miller offered his daughter a life of comfort and all of the gold that she could want. But she said, "I cannot stay in the place where this happened. I must go." She had her arms bound in clean cloth, and at daybreak she walked away into the world. She walked all day, and as night fell she came to a royal garden where fruit hung glowing in the moonlight. A moat surrounded it, but an angel appeared and made the water draw back, creating a path. The maiden walked through and ate one pear straight from the tree, for she had nothing else. She ate only one, just enough to live, and then returned to the forest to sleep. The next morning the gardener reported to the king, "A spirit came in the night and ate one pear, leaving no hand's mark upon it." "Tonight," said the king, "I shall keep watch." When the maiden appeared again, the king saw she was no spirit, but a woman in terrible need. The angel made the waters part one more, and the king stepped forwards. "Who are you?" he asked gently. "I am forsaken by everyone but God," she said. "Not forsaken by me," said the king. And he took her into his castle, and because he loved her deeply, he had silver hands made for her, beautiful crafted hands that looked almost real. In time, they married, and she began to remember what it was to be held. After a year, the king had to travel to war. "My mother will care for you," he told his young queen. "If you bear our child while I am away, send word immediately." The queen did bear a child, a beautiful son. The mother sent a joyful message to the king. "Your wife has given birth to a healthy boy." But the messenger stopped to rest at a stream, and being weary, fell asleep. The devil, still watching, replaced the letter with one that read, "Your wife has given birth to a changeling, a creature that is half dog." The king, though troubled, sent word back, "Keep her safe and care for her until I return." But again the devil intercepted the messenger and replaced the letter with one that read, "Kill the queen and her child. Keep her tongue and eyes as proof." The old mother read these terrible words and could not believe them. She sent another message, but each time the devil changed it, and finally a message came that seemed to be from the king. "Kill them both." The old mother could not do it. Instead, she killed a deer, kept its tongue and its eyes, and said to the young queen, "You must flee, you are no longer safe here." The queen wept, but she bound her baby to her back, veiled her face, and walked once more into the forest. She walked until she came to a clearing where a small house stood. A sign above the door said, "Here all dwell free." A maiden dressed in white appeared. "Welcome, your majesty," she said, though the queen wore rags. "How did you know to call me that?" asked the queen. "We angels know such things," said the maiden. "Come, you and your child are safe here." For 7 years the queen lived in that house in the forest. She nursed her son. She wept her grief. She learned to live without hands, to do things slowly, differently, with help. And one day, as she bent to drink from the stream, her child slipped from her arms and fell towards the water. She reached out in desperation and caught him. She looked down at her arms, and where the stumps had been, hands had grown back. Pale, new, but real, her own hands restored. The angel appeared. "Your faithfulness has been rewarded. You have wept long enough. You have lived in the wilderness long enough. Now you may return." But the queen said, "I will wait here. If my husband still loves me, he will find me." Meanwhile, the king had returned from war to learn the terrible truth, the devil's deception, his mother's mercy, his wife's flight, and he was devastated. "I will not eat or drink," he vowed, "until I find them, even if I must search until I die." For 7 years the king wandered. His beard grew long, his fingernails grew like claws, his skin turned brown from sun and weather. He ate only berries and roots. He searched everywhere, asking everyone, yet finding nothing. Finally, exhausted, he came to the house in the forest. The angel maiden answered his knock. "I seek a queen and a small child." "Rest here," said the angel. "They will come." She brought him food, and a veil fell across his face so that he could sleep. As he slept, the angel called the queen and her son. "Put on your gloves," she told the queen. "Cover your hands." When the king woke, the veil fell away, and before him stood a woman he almost recognized, and a child of 7 years. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your wife," she said, "and this is your son." The king looked at her gloved hands, confusion crossing his face. "But my wife had no hands. I had silver hands made for her." The queen reached for a wooden chest. Inside lay the silver hands preserved, and she slowly removed her gloves. God has given me my own hands back, she said, and she showed him. The king wept. He embraced his wife and his son, and finally they were together. They returned to the castle, where the old mother wept with joy. They held a second wedding feast, and this time it was a true celebration, not of what was lost, but of what had been found, what had grown back, what had been made whole through patient suffering. And they lived many years together in fullness and in truth. Part 2. The Medicine. A story analysis. Let's explore the medicine that this story may offer. The bargain and the cost. On the surface, this is a story about a young woman whose father makes a terrible bargain, loses her hands, and then embarks on a long journey that ends with her hands growing back. But let's look deeper. The father's bargain with the devil represents something many of us inherit. Patterns, agreements, or compromises made by those who came before us. The father thinks he's trading an apple tree. He cannot see what truly stands behind the mill because he is blinded by his own need. And this is how family patterns work. Somebody makes a deal with work, with emotional unavailability, with alcohol, thinking that the cost is manageable. But the real cost falls on the children. The daughter becomes the price of the father's bargain. Jung would recognize this as shadow work that crosses generations. What the father couldn't face, his own fear, his poverty, his desperation, becomes the daughter's inheritance. She literally loses her hands because of his blindness. The meaning of the hands. Why hands specifically? This isn't arbitrary. Hands represent agency, our ability to reach out and grasp our own lives. Hands are how we feed ourselves, create, build, defend, connect. To lose your hand is to lose your capacity to engage with the world on your own terms. Many people carry this experience even with intact hands. You may have skills, intelligence, desire, yet somehow feel unable to fully reach for what you need. Something was cut off early. Perhaps it was criticism that made you afraid to try. Perhaps it was trauma that froze your ability to act. Perhaps it was a family system that required you to be small so that others could be big. This story shows us this pattern and says, this is real, this happens, and this is devastating. The protection in purity. Notice that the maiden's tears and purity initially protect her from the devil. This isn't about moral superiority. Psychologically, purity here means remaining true to oneself despite the contamination around her. She doesn't become bitter. She doesn't absorb her father's fear or the devil's cruelty. She maintains something essential, something we might call her authentic self, or in therapeutic language, her core being that hasn't fragmented under pressure. But here's what's profound. Even this purity isn't enough to prevent the cutting. The amputation still happens. Some wounds occur regardless of our goodness. This is crucial medicine for anybody who's blamed themselves for trauma. The maiden did everything right, and she still lost her hands. Sometimes terrible things happen, not because of what we did or didn't do, but because we're caught in somebody else's pattern, somebody else's devil. The wilderness journey. After the cutting, the maiden leaves. She walks away from the place of wounding, away from the father's guilty gold, away from everything familiar. This departure is essential. In depth psychology, we talk about necessary exile, times when we must leave the old structures behind to discover what is authentically ours. The maiden can't heal in the place where the wounding happened. She needs wilderness, both literally and psychologically. The royal garden represents a threshold space, protected, nourishing, but not yet home. The king's love is genuine, and he gives her silver hands, beautifully crafted replacements that work, but they aren't truly hers. How many of us have accepted silver hands? Coping mechanisms, personas, adaptations, ways of functioning that work but aren't truly us. The compensation that helps us survive but doesn't quite restore what was lost. The silver hands aren't wrong. They represent the kindness of others, the support systems we build, and the ways we learn to function after loss, but they're not the same as our own hands growing back. The devil's deception. When the maiden bears a child, a symbol of new life, of creativity, of authenticity emerging, the devil attacks again through deception. He twists the messages between the king and the queen, replacing truth with lies. And this is how unhealed patterns work. Just when something genuine begins to emerge, the old dynamics sabotage it. The lies feel real. The confusion feels overwhelming. What's true becomes unclear. The queen must flee again, this time carrying her child, carrying her new creation, her authentic self that's beginning to emerge, back into the wilderness. 7 years. In fairy tales, 7 is the number of a complete cycle, transformation that takes exactly as long as it takes. The queen lives in the angel's house, a protected, liminal space. She's not in the castle pretending to be whole with silver hands. She's not in her father's house, bound by guilt. She's in a third space, a transformational space. And here's the crucial part. Her hands grow back through her tears. Not through effort, not through positive thinking, or silver hands, or anybody else's healing. Through grief. Through allowing herself to fully feel what was lost. Through 7 years of letting the same tears fall on the stumps. This is a great insight. What we grieve completely can transform. What we push away, compensate for, or silver hand our way around, stays wounded. What we allow ourselves to fully mourn can regenerate. When her child slips towards the water, and she reaches out in desperation, in that moment of absolute necessity, the new hands were there, real hands, her own hands, grown back through tears and time and the natural wisdom of the psyche. The king's journey. Meanwhile, the king searches for 7 years. His beard grows wild, his nails grow long, he eats only berries and roots. He becomes almost animal-like in his devotion to finding what he's lost. This is the masculine journey of commitment, not giving up, not moving on, not finding someone else with intact hands, staying faithful to what was real, even when it seems gone forever. Both journeys are necessary. The queen must grieve in her wilderness, the king must search in his. They transform separately so that they can reunite as whole people. The recognition. When they finally meet again, the king doesn't recognize her at first. She's changed. She has real hands now, hidden beneath gloves. The silver hands, preserved in a chest, become proof of what she once was. But when she removes her gloves and shows her real hands, the king sees what transformation looks like. This is what genuine healing creates. We don't go back to who we were before the wounding. We become something new, still ourselves but with real hands now. Hands that grew back through tears and time. Hands that are ours. The medicine for today. This story speaks to anyone who has felt capable but somehow powerless. To anyone carrying the cost of somebody else's bargain. To anyone who has been given silver hands. Compensation, coping mechanisms, ways of functioning that work but aren't quite real. The medicine is this. What was cut off can grow back. Not immediately. Not through effort or willpower or even through somebody else's love, however genuine. It grows back through grief. Through allowing yourself to fully feel what was lost. Through time in the wilderness, away from the place of wounding. Through the protected space where you can be incomplete, handless, not yet healed. And then one day, when you reach out for what matters the most, the hands are there. This is the alchemy that the story offers: loss, wilderness, tears, time, restoration. Not back to what was, but forward into what can be. Part 3. Integration Practices. The medicine doesn't come from understanding these patterns intellectually. It comes from practices that allow the transformation in your body, in your grief, in your honest acknowledgement of where you are. Here are 3 ideas of practices to help you integrate this story's medicine. The first practice: the handless inventory. Take your journal and draw 2 columns. On the left, write where I feel handless, areas where you have capacity but feel unable to reach for what you need. And on the right, write what was cut off, the specific ability or permission or confidence that was lost. Spend 10 minutes with this. Don't try to fix anything. Just let yourself see the patterns clearly. Second practice suggestion: silver hands recognition. Notice your silver hands, the coping mechanisms that you've built that work but aren't quite real. Each time you catch yourself using one, simply acknowledge it. Aha, silver hands. No judgment, just recognition. By the end of the week, journal about the pattern that you noticed. What are your silver hands protecting you from feeling? Third practice: tears on stumps. Choose one thing that you lost, something you've been trying to effort your way back into. Set a timer for 15 minutes, find a private space, and allow yourself to grieve it fully. Not to fix it, not to understand it, not to resolve it, just to grieve. Let the tears fall where the loss lives. Don't be surprised if this feels difficult. We're not taught to grieve without trying to repair. But this is how real hands grow back, through tears, not through trying. The wisdom in these old stories doesn't force itself upon us. It works slowly, like water on stone or like tears on stumps. This story has survived for centuries because it contains medicine that we need, medicine about loss and restoration, about the difference between silver hands and real ones, about trusting what grows back through grief is more real than what we can construct through effort. I hope this story's medicine finds you where you need it. Thank you for listening to Story Medicine. I'm Joe Summerfield. If these explorations resonate with you, you can learn more about my therapeutic work at joesummerfield.co.uk. Until next time.